So this is going to be a full ChatGPT course, and this course is for people who want to make the best use out of ChatGPT. It may not be intended to an audience who has an in-depth understanding about machine learning and LLMs, but at the same time, their main goal is to use ChatGPT or AI to improve the different areas of their life. From what you already know about me, my priorities are growing my business, to have a balanced life, focusing on the tripod of life, which for me are the health, the wealth, and my relationships, to have productive days, to have good habits, and rely on my habits as an automation to success. You know that I run a business. I want to stay productive in the business. I have a simple yet diversified investment portfolio, and I want to keep improving my financial journey. Those are all things that I want to focus on. And this course is going to go out completely for free on my YouTube channel. So based on that, let's make the outline for the course and see what are the different topics that we can cover in this course, given that we have about an hour-long course that we can post. So the first thing that I want to say is bring AI to whatever you do. And I think that's the best way to learn ChatGPT. I just had an introduction to this course, which I also created as a voice note. So I'm going to use ChatGPT as my assistant to create a course, which is about ChatGPT. And the reason is not because ChatGPT knows how to get the most out of ChatGPT, but the reason is that I actually take ChatGPT with me on whatever I do. So let's see what it comes up with. So there's an introduction aspect which explains, my personal experience with ChatGPT, which has been really life-changing. And what I've done is I've basically got ChatGPT to everything that I do and used it as a team member, as an assistant, as a financial assistant, as someone who helps me improve my health, wealth, business. And those are all ways that I'm using ChatGPT. But we're going to go through all of these step by step. We're going to see how to set it up. We're going to see how to use it for business, productivity, health and wealth, managing your investments, enhancing relationships, something I've not explored too much, but yes, I have used it for parenting, which is something that it has covered my role as a father and a husband. So as you can see, even the course outline that ChatGPT has made is very in line with my life. It's also taken the advanced CustomGPTs because I create CustomGPTs, and I'll be happy to share that in this video as well. So hopefully we get time to cover all of these points. But there's one more thing that I want to give it. Remember, as I said, I told ChatGPT to work within certain restrictions, which is a very good way to use large language models or LLMs in general. But since they process words and text, it's important to give them certain restrictions and in your outcome to make the outcome more personalized to you rather than just having a generic outcome. The other thing which is important is to understand that whether you give it a voice note or text, it's just going to take text as an input. It's a word processor in some sense. Now, while all of these topics are great, I do want to take the user step by step. So let's assume that we are starting completely as a beginner. People who are just writing short and direct prompts do not have a clear understanding about prompt engineering. From there, we can train them and show them how to use persona prompts. For example, we can show them how to use flipped interaction patterns. But at the same time, I don't want it to become like a technical, boring course about prompt engineering. Rather, keep it action-based and action-oriented and see how we will use ChatGPT in our daily life. Now, these are all different kinds of prompt patterns. But as you heard in my voice note to ChatGPT, what I'm saying is I don't want you to make a boring course. I want you to keep it fun and actionable. And that's exactly what I'm actually doing right now as I'm using ChatGPT to make the course outline. So now it's come up with a course title, which is Master ChatGPT, A Beginner's Guide to AI. And now it's creating, the kinds of prompt patterns that I've spoken about, but in a more application-based way, like act as a personal trainer, imagine you're an investor, nutrition, business advice, flipped interaction where you ask ChatGPT to ask questions, using ChatGPT for productivity, for health and wellness, for wealth management, and then finally the advanced tips to think smarter. Now, we have laid out the initial foundations of the course. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually get started with some prompts, and I will show you how these prompts make sense and what kind of outputs they can deliver. So let's say that you were my advisor for my health and nutrition plans. From a fitness perspective, I want to achieve a balance of physical strength, but also inner peace. So I want a program that helps me not just build, lean muscle, which is actually my secondary focus. My primary focus will be to stay overall in high energy levels, feel good. So I want to combine both the aspects of mindfulness and meditation with fitness. And when it comes to nutrition, I have a few restrictions that I want to let you know. I'm a pescatarian, so I can eat seafood, I can eat eggs, but 80% of my meals are going to be vegetarian/vegan. I don't eat meat. At the same time, I want to prioritize my protein intake. I want 80% of my overall calories coming from whole, real foods, nutritious fruits, vegetables, protein sources, good carbs. And the rest 20%, I want to have scope for flexibility and fun. And based on these inputs, I want you to create an overall health plan, including nutrition and fitness. And I'm a big believer of bringing those strategies and plans into daily habits. So I want you to then, based on that, create a weekly plan for me. So we're going to start with the health aspect. And first, I'm going to show you a very basic way of prompting. So I've just given it all of the inputs and restrictions and requirements. And based on that, I'm going to get output, right? So far, I've used a direct prompt. The only difference between this prompt and a basic and a rather extremely beginner prompt would be that a very beginner prompt would be shorter than this. So the first level of optimization with ChatGPT is to have longer prompts. The best hack to have longer prompts is to, of course, use voice notes because it could take forever to type this out. But if you have been prompting with short prompts, the first pro tip that I would give you is to actually go for longer prompts. In general, longer prompts are going to have better output than shorter prompts, right? So I've given it a long prompt. It's still a one-shot prompt. Now, what a one-shot prompt is, basically, I want ChatGPT to give me the output within one prompt. And especially when I'm using a single shot prompting pattern, which is that I want the output to come in a single prompt, I want to make it as detailed as possible. So let's see what it comes up with. So my overall health plan, my primary focus is going to be energy and well-being. Now, this could be different for a bodybuilder, for example, or for someone who wants to get down to less than 10% body fat, and people have different kinds of goals. But for someone who's mostly focused on well-being, they are starting the day with breath work. Now, it mentions Sudarshan Kriya because I do the Sudarshan Kriya and it has information about me. But you could do any kind of breathing practice. Again, this is not a recommendation for a health plan to anyone, but you could create your own health plan. It's also mentioning flow yoga twice a week because it's focusing on my mental clarity rather than just increasing the size of muscles, which I haven't given that as the main goal. So that's the secondary focus, which is to include strength training so that I can maintain the physique. And it's included 2 to 3 days of full body resistance training. Now, again, it knows that I don't want to build a lot of muscle at the same time. I just want to stay active. And that's why it's just limited to 2 to 3. Of course, you could get better results with 3 to 4. Maybe some diminishing returns beyond 5, but 45 minutes, it's not even an hour-long session. And then it has the focus on the mindfulness and flexibility. So one session of active stretching to increase mobility. Then it comes to nutrition, where it's targeting 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kg of body weight. So the protein sources are eggs, tofu, tempeh, lentils, chickpeas, salmon, seafood. So a lot of those are good protein sources, which are all based on the restriction that I gave it, that I'm a pescatarian, but mostly vegetarian. It's focusing on a macro split. I haven't given it a macro split, which I can improve on further. And based on that, it's given me 80% whole foods and a fun 20% budget, which is great. So you see that it's not giving me a low carb or keto or anything. It's just giving me an overall healthy plan, right? So you can obviously make this single shot into a chain of thought pattern. So what a chain of thought pattern does is that you get some output and then you can give your input again and you can have this exchange of thoughts. So now we're going to turn this single shot, before we get into other prompt patterns, We're just going to convert it into a chain of thought. I like the plans overall. One thing that I do, which is already a habit for me, is intermittent fasting, where I eat between 12 and 8 p.m. on a daily basis. Sometimes it could change to 10 to 6, sometimes 11 to 7. I'm not perfect. But yeah, I do follow the intermittent fasting. The other thing I try to do is keep my lunch, which is the first meal of the day, relatively low carb, because I don't want a huge dip after lunch, while keeping the dinner a little bit moderately higher carb compared to the lunch. So during my lunch, I'm focusing mostly on protein and veggies, while for dinner, we can include some good carbs and sometimes rice. I like rice, white rice, not brown rice. And that's one thing that I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say is I do enjoy long-form cardio, so steady state cardio, long cycling, long walking, given that I don't particularly want to build a lot of muscle, rather just stay lean and energetic. That's something that really helps me. So based on this, can you just modify the plan and make a table with columns for the day of the week, what I have to do for nutrition, for each meal, and what I have to do for my training. So now what I'm doing is I'm bringing it down. I'm modifying the output by giving further input, and I'm trying to summarize it in a table format. So now we've converted a single short prompt, which already gave us an output, which we could have used if we were happy with it, into a chain of thought and then summarizing the output in a table format. This could be very useful because you could take this table into your Notion or Google Sheets or wherever you manage your daily routines, etc. If you don't, then that's a good place to start to manage your daily routines. But now it's come up with a Monday plan, which is a full day, full body training session of someone like me, whose goal is not hypertrophy. I think a full body session is pretty good. It makes you feel better overall because your entire body is working. You have different muscle groups which work complementary to each other, and you've covered all of them. The lunch is mostly tofu and veggies, while the dinner is grilled salmon with white rice and mixed vegetables. It's a perfect meal for fitness, at least for my goals. Tuesday, it's done long-form cardio. It's given me a shrimp option, which I like, and mostly salad for lunch. I do have a problem with the lunch because lentil for me is not the best source of protein. I would rather replace it with eggs, so boiled egg salad, which I can go back and give it input. But yeah, those are some good outputs in with a chain of thought. But now we're going to do something called a flipped interaction pattern, where we are going to actually make it even better. Now, this was great. There are some things that you may not know about me. For example, I don't enjoy lentil salad. I would rather have a boiled egg salad. And also I feel the egg protein has higher bioavailability, which could be better for me. But overall, I want this to be even more customized for me. And instead of you just giving me another plan, I want you to ask me any questions that you have that will help you improve the output. So that's the keyword here. Ask me any questions that will help you improve the output. If you don't know how to prompt ChatGPT, this is a great question to ask. You can actually not even take this course and just ask ChatGPT what you should know about prompting ChatGPT. Sometimes it could be under-optimal, the answers, but at the same time, it's going to give you enough information to get started with. So now we're going to make it even better. And what we've done is a flipped interaction. So instead of me asking it things, now ChatGPT is asking me things. So it's a conversation. So it's getting more fun. Protein preferences, carb choices, snacking habits, flexibility, cardio preference, hydration. Let's start with the mornings. I usually have an Americano, so a black coffee with no sugar, no ice, because I'm no sugar, no milk. I have to say no ice because I live in Vietnam and everyone just puts ice in things. But yeah, at the same time, this is during my fasting window, so I don't want to break a fast at this point of time. Sometimes I will have salt water because oftentimes I feel like breaking a fast, but if I just have some salt, I feel better, like I feel really good. So maybe I just don't need food, but I just need some salt at that point of time. Not electrolytes, but just simple salt. I know there's fancy products for this, but I don't want to waste my money on those. I just don't believe that they are really important. Now, when it comes to the protein preferences, eggs and seafood are the go-to. I think within seafood, salmon and shrimp would be the go-to options. Plant-based proteins, I like tofu and tempeh. Not a big fan of chickpeas, not a big fan of lentils, though I like the taste of those. When it comes to carb choices, I love white rice for dinner, for sure. For lunch, I could do bread. I could do like a whole wheat brown bread. I don't mind. I don't like white bread particularly, but I like white rice. It's not about health or fitness, it's just a preference. Potatoes, I like sweet potatoes more than potatoes. Of course, they're also more nutritious, more fibrous, so that's an added advantage. Snacking, I'm not a big snacker, I would say. Sometimes I would have yogurt. Again, no sugar. Plain yogurt that I like as a snack. A protein shake in order to cover my protein requirements. Since I'm having only 2 meals, I would have a whey protein typically somewhere in between to cover up the protein requirements. Otherwise, I have to eat 50 to 60 grams of protein per meal. So if we can make a plan around that, I don't need the whey protein on those days. I love the flexibility, but my cheat meals are not ice cream or pizza or anything. They're typically just like nuts, which are high fat, but I like nuts. And those could also be good snacks, but sometimes I would overdo on nuts, which becomes a cheat. Cardio preference, yes. Long form steady state is good. I love walking. I do 10,000 steps a day, almost every day. Hydration, yeah, multivitamins sometimes if I feel I haven't had enough veggies, but otherwise not a big fan of any fancy products for hydration. I love coconut water. So I've given it more input, and what I've done basically now is I've used the flipped interaction pattern as an opportunity for ChatGPT to improve itself. And this is what you would do with an employee as well, right? So with a team member, what you would do is, how can I improve your performance? Can you tell me if you need some training? Can you tell me if you need further inputs from me? And then see what it comes up with, right? So based on this, it's given me a snack option. That's something that I like that it's added. It's replaced my lentils with eggs. It's actually taken sweet potatoes and put it in some of my meals. It's taken my whole wheat bread as an input. It's added my plain yogurt and coconut water and all of these nuts in moderate proportion because it knows that I'm going to overdo on nuts, some salt water and black Americano and all of that. So far, so good. So we've covered different kinds of prompt patterns in this entire thread. And this has been mostly focused on health. So we're going to move away from that a little bit. And now what we'll do is we're going to go to the business aspect. I also want your help to manage my day theming with business. So the most important pillars of the agency business are going to be sales and delivery. There is operational work, but I don't do operational work in my deep work sessions. When it comes to the agency business, I want to keep Monday for sales and I want to keep Wednesday for sales. I want to keep Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday for delivery, of which Friday should be focused on reporting, creating weekly reports, analytics, looking at data, seeing what can be improved for businesses. Since I run a marketing agency, most of our work is growth marketing experimentation. And based on this, I think day themes would really help in the sense that I could say that, okay, Monday I have to focus on sales so I can turn my sales head on. And again, this is all for the first half of the day. The second half could be firefighting, could be meetings, could be shallow work, could be just tackling whatever comes as urgent, may not be as important. But the first half I want to keep for things which are really important where I can go deep. So we're going to switch gears here. We're going to go to the business aspect. We're going to do some fun stuff with the calendars as well, because now we're creating day themes. So first, let's see what it comes up with this kind of input. Again, the input is detailed, which is something that I really want you guys to focus on, that you have to give detailed input. So this is the day theming for the agency business. So the morning is for deep work. Some mornings are for sales and some mornings are focused on delivery. Again, the second half could be anything from client communication, meetings, and so forth. Then it's done the afternoon sessions for meetings. So most of my meetings are going to go there. This is a good roadmap because what happens is sometimes if we don't plan this a week ahead, we could get lost in operational work the first thing in the morning. Once you get lost in operational work the first thing in the morning, you might lose your entire day to operations because your mind has switched. And a lot of task switching is required. A lot of communication is required when it comes to operations. There's another very interesting follow-up prompt, which I really like, because so far you can see that, I have given a lot of input to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT has assumed that as the right thing to do. But now we're going to go with this question. What could I potentially be doing wrong by day theming my weeks like this? This is a very good input. Whatever you have told ChatGPT, let it work on the output, but then ask it, what have I done wrong? The important thing about this is that you might feel that your way of doing things is the right way, which may not be the case. So here are the problems. Because I have day themes, I might be over-structuring it. So if a client is going crazy, I may not prioritize that. So where's the flexibility in this? Energy management. Some days I will just have a lot of reporting to do, and then it'll be hard to go back because the back-to-back deep work could be taxing, right? It's a solution that for example, if you think that sales is too much, you don't have to do all of the sales on Monday and Wednesday. You might want to do it on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And if delivery is what you enjoy, you might want to cover more of that in individual days. What about client demands? If you're doing client coordination only in certain times, you might be too rigid. Limited creativity if you have to do it on certain days. Very good answers when you ask the question, where am I going wrong? Right? So far, we've given it inputs in terms of text. And we've given it good inputs. We've got good output so far. What I'm also going to do is I'm also going to test a sort of screenshot-based method. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send it a screenshot of my calendar. Okay. And I'm going to say, here's how a week look like on my calendar. How aligned is this to my weekly day themes, and how can I make it better? So this is a calendar that a screenshot of my Google Calendar that I've shared with ChatGPT. This is where things get interesting, where it's going to read the input and then it's going to say, this is what I observed in your calendar. Now, a lot of people talk about day themes and a lot of people talk about priorities and all, but the calendar has something else, right? So there's a saying which I believe goes like, don't tell me about your priorities, but show me your schedule. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm showing the schedule to ChatGPT. And this is what it says. You have a morning deep work session, which is aligned with your sales focus. Wednesday, you have a working session, which likely fit into your sales effort, but your deep work time is only 2 hours. So on Wednesday, my deep work session on my calendar was blocked only for 2 hours. That's could be extended, right? So it's got me. Tuesday, you have a dedicated deep work session in the morning, which is good. Thursday, there's a work session and several meetings, but no clear morning focus on deep work. So a lot of those weeks, I'm not able to push in that deep work session in the morning, especially on Thursdays, because what happens is as the week goes by, like it rightly pointed out when I asked the question, where am I going wrong? A lot of things will just get piled up and I have to finish them on Thursday. Friday, I have a deep work session is only 1.45 hours followed by a pre-al meeting in the morning. Now, I had to meet pre-al in the morning. I could have moved it to the second half. I should have ideally moved it to the second half, but that was an interruption. So these are things that I can learn for the next weeks. So prioritize your windows. You can increase the block deep work time in the morning so that your meetings are not able to take up your calendar in the first half, especially on Friday, because when you're looking at data, when you're looking at analytics, it sounds ideal when you say, I do analytics on Friday, but if you're meeting someone about something, you're not doing analytics. Maybe it's about analytics, in which case it's different. And it's trying to increase my deep work hours from 2 to 3 hours, which I really like, and ensure the day themes stay intact. Thursday has a lot of meetings, like it says. Like I said, a lot of work will get piled up. Consider pushing some meetings to the afternoons. So this is an example of how you can give a simple screenshot. And based on that, you could get a more ideal output from ChatGPT. So now I'm going to give it a screenshot of my Notion dashboard, which is where I manage a lot of my personal as well as work. Like it's an overall dashboard for my life. So I'm going to give you the screenshot. Based on that, I want you to create highlights about my life from my Notion dashboard. And also describe the different areas of my dashboard, and reflect on how we can optimize those further. So again, Notion has been a good place, of course, for many people to sort of keep a dashboard of their life. I've kept mine very simple. So I have the core strategy and tactical pillars on Notion. And then within each, I have 3 lists. I try to limit things to 3 because they're easy to manage. So it's going to now break down my life pillars based on this. So it's saying inside your core, you have diary, you have routines, you have pillars, right? In your strategy, you have the work, projects, and goals. In your tactical, you have hobbies, sprints, and tools. So your diary is like a personal space for reflection. Your routine is about consistency, which shows your habit approach. Your pillars are so and so. Strategy work is like your main workspace for projects and consulting. Projects is what you're working on right now to align with your goals. And goals are your long-term picture, like this is what you achieve long-term. Within the tactical, you have balance and enjoyment out of work, which are your hobbies, your sprints, which are focused, small projects to build habits, etc., and tools. So far it's got it right. I haven't given it more information about how I use all of this, but it's given me good ideas. Let's see what the ideas are. The diary section, you can have prompts to make this section more powerful. This is something I don't use, but I know that prompts for journaling and diary entry are good. If you don't have already, review the past entries. This is excellent because this is something I actually don't do yet. Routines, adding a habit tracker for your intermittent fasting, so forth. Pillars, how are you aligning your pillars to your strategy? Projects, if you haven't use a Kanban view, which I do. I love the Kanban view. Hobbies, tools, etc. So the reason why I did this was for it to understand the overall structure, because as we deep dive into the dashboard, I would ask it to make certain adjustments, to make certain improvements in the overall way that I'm doing things, right? So we have discussed about the diary, the routines, and so forth. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually feed in my routine into it, which is again from Notion, and then see how I can improve it further. So again, we're going to use 2 things. First feature we're going to use is we're going to upload the screenshot. So just click upload photo. Upload file. I'm just going to take up the screenshot here, and then I'm going to give it an input. This is my ideal routine. I believe that if you design your ideal routine, then you can design your ideal life. What are the things that I'm missing out from this ideal routine, which as per your current understanding about me, I could benefit from? Again, I'm trying to find the missing pieces here, and I'm uploading a screenshot of my current routine. Again, if you have things documented, you'll be able to get better output. So it's important to document things. So while I am focusing on growth, I should have some dedicated sessions about learning or creative work. This is something I really want to add. Your relationship pillar is very important, especially your wife and children, dedicated time for reflection. This, I think it's a little bit more Western. And just kidding. Midday movement breaks, that's interesting. So after the deep work sessions, I can move a little bit more. So you see that I'm actually being able to use ChatGPT to improve my life. And we're going to do some fun stuff from here. So now I want you to create a newsletter for my audience based on what you know about my daily routine. And I want to explain my daily routine and the different kinds of things that I have in my daily routine to my email list. Can you create simple and a short newsletter between 600 to 800 words? Use short sentences so that I can send it out to my email list. Now, this is where we start using ChatGPT to create content. So far, we've given it a word limit. We've asked it to write a newsletter. We've not given it any SEO keywords because they don't matter for the email newsletter. The important thing is we've told it to keep it short and simple. And this is really how I write newsletters. The important thing also is that we've given it the right input. Because if you were to randomly start using ChatGPT to write content, it won't be your content. And this is why I don't get into the debate of how to write unique content with ChatGPT, because my content is based on such a long conversation that I've had with ChatGPT that it knows so much about me that's going to create the perfect newsletter because it knows my routine. It knows why this routine works for me is because I want a balance between health, business, and family. It knows a lot about me. It even mentions dinner is often higher in carbs. And yes, I love having white rice. I love this, right? Because it's personal. This is how I would write the newsletter. You know what? Let's actually make a YouTube video as well because this is such an interesting topic. I want you to script the entire YouTube video where I explain my daily routine as a millionaire. Just kidding. Just explain my daily routine. The as a millionaire is a joke. But yeah, you can make jokes with ChatGPT. That's another learning. But yeah, here's the routine. I hope it's not taken the as a millionaire and it understood the joke. So yes, it did understand the joke. I don't see the millionaire thing here. But here's a script. So camera on you, sitting in the workspace. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to take you through something which I truly believe in, the power of routines. So yeah, this is good stuff. Deep work, there's some camera cuts that it suggested. Of course, this needs someone running around with me and a camera, doing my yoga nidra in the evenings, in the afternoons, after lunch. Camera on you, wrapping up the video. Hey, that's my daily routine. It's not fancy, but it's designed. Now, most of the things I do are not very fancy. And this is what I get a lot of comments on my YouTube videos as well. Such a simple portfolio. You are too diversified. You've just invested in the entire market. Guess what? Yes, that's true. So this is, again, the end screen, then the subscribe button and a suggestion. So it's pretty much like YouTube specific. And that's important because I asked it to make it YouTube specific, right? Now let's make it for LinkedIn because that's the second channel. Based on my LinkedIn profile, also getting good reach for productivity videos, I think, for productivity posts, I think that this would also be repurposed as a good post about my daily routine on LinkedIn. What do you think would be a good format for the post? And what do you think would be a good word length? Give me that input before you actually start writing the post. Now, this is an important additional step that I wanted to show you. So instead of just saying, yeah, you have everything that you need to know, just write a post. I just want to make sure that it's going to adapt it for LinkedIn. And that's the reason why, see, this is what I like, right? So I know that for LinkedIn, the hook is the most important. And if it did not talk about the hook, I would have asked it to redo the content. Bullet points or short sections. This is aligned with how I write my posts. Emojis are nice. Call to action, short. Sounds good. Let's write 3 variants of the post. I'm asking you to write 3 variants. I'm taking it one step further than most people because I would like to actually choose one instead of having one and then keep going back to ChatGPT. So variant 1, balanced routine for productivity and growth. Designing your ideal life comes from designing your ideal routine. Here's what my daily routine looks like. Very short bullet points. My routine that helps me stay balanced and focused. This is what I do in the morning, afternoon. It's a much shorter version of the YouTube. Success to me about balance. My daily routine focus on this. Here's how I would start. Now, in terms of the hook, I actually like the first one a lot, which is basically designing your ideal life comes from designing your ideal routine. And here's what my daily routine looks like. What does your daily routine look like, right? What does your ideal routine look like? So it's ending with a question, which is going to encourage people to comment. So far, we are going really good. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to go from here to investing. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give it a file, which is my investing portfolio file. Right? So this is an export of my investments. You could also give it a screenshot. And I think both of them are good options. Since we have discussed screenshot, let's go with the screenshot approach first. And then we are going to switch to let me just log into my investment portfolio. Because screenshots are very simple. For a file, you might have to export your portfolio, which is available on all the apps. But I'm just going to take a screenshot of my holdings. and I'm going to upload them to ChatGPT. Now let's move to my investment portfolio. I'm going to give you a screenshot of my top holdings on my equity portfolio. This is not my entire investment portfolio. This is just my equity portfolio, which is less than 50% of my entire portfolio. So don't worry about diversification outside of equity. But within equity, the portfolio that I'm sharing is in the Indian market. Now, act as a personal finance advisor who's not biased to sell me a specific mutual fund. That's the benefit. But act as a personal finance advisor and do an analysis of the top holdings. What are things that I'm doing well and what are the things I'm not doing so well? Now, people charge a lot of money for portfolio reviews. So this is something that we're going to do with ChatGPT now. So I've given it a screenshot of my holdings on my equity holdings in the Indian market. You could be investing in any market or whatever portfolio that you have, and do a strengths and weakness analysis of my portfolio. So sort of a portfolio review. Let's see what it does, right? It's pretty detailed. So let's start. Strengths in your portfolio. Solid focus on low-cost ETFs and index funds. You've got significant holdings in mid-cap 150, next 50, and Nifty 50, which shows you're sticking to low-cost, broad-based index funds. And that's exactly my passive investing strategy. This aligns with your passive investing strategy and long-term approach. I like that. Now, by the way, it does know a little bit more about me from before. So it's not that everything that I've told here is the only thing that ChatGPT knows. There's more information that I've given it before. So maybe it's taking data from there. The mid-cap and next 50 exposure gives you higher growth potential, because if I was doing only Nifty 50, then it would have probably categorized me as a super safe investor, which is what a financial advisor would also do. Now, since you focus on ETFs, it's lower cost, reduces management fee, and overall believes in simplification of overall portfolio. Diversified sectors, the sector diversification is good. So now it's seeing if the sectors are diversified. Are the caps diversified? Yes, you have large cap, you have mid cap, the sectors are diversified. And since you have 50% ETFs, I didn't know it's 50% ETFs here. Yes, it was. And then it says 20% in mid cap, 50% in large cap is a good balance between stability and growth. Large caps offer reliability, while mid caps offer opportunities for high returns. Your mid cap and small cap mutual funds are also showing has strong performance. Impressive returns across the board. This is not so important because returns, it could be negative, it could be positive. It's just a time thing. But if you're holding for the long term, it's really not important. You've avoided the temptation to chase individual stocks. Now, I do have some individual stocks like Hindustan Unilever and Bajaj Auto. So as per it, it's like stable stocks. I could have had more, but these were old ones that I bought and I never wanted to sell it. But now I no longer buy any individual stocks. Then there's some areas for improvement, which some people have also commented on my YouTube videos. So thank you all for that. Mid-cap 150Bs, PGIM India mid-cap, Robeco small cap. It can be more volatile. Of course, there could be some overlap as well between the mid-cap funds. Limited direct stock holdings. This is something that people also talk on my videos. You could have more individual stocks. Again, I don't want to do that, and I can explain ChatGPT why. And your equity exposure is very high for this portfolio, so some debt will be good. What you're doing well, a good portfolio, good mix of the caps, passive approach. Be mindful of your small mid cap if the market gets volatile, which is fine because I'm investing for the long term. You can always give the input back to ChatGPT and see if this is what I want to do. Since I've been investing for a very long period of time, potentially many decades, I'm not worried about my small cap exposure. In fact, I do want to increase my small cap exposure. And I want you to calculate based on my top holdings, what percentage of my exposure is in small cap and how can I increase it to get it to 20% of my portfolio? How much money do I need to put in small cap to get it to 20%? Because that's my goal for 2024. Now, for this question, I actually needed to give it more input, which is like the entire portfolio export sheet, which I'm going to do. I have also shown that in a different video, which is about building my portfolio. It's taken the calculation from Canara Robeco Small Cap Fund, Kotak Emerging Equity Fund, and Nippon India Small Cap Fund. It's done some calculations. Before that, I have to correct it. The Kotak Emerging Equity Fund is actually mostly a mid-cap fund, so I just want you to consider the other two. So in that list, I don't have all my small cap exposure, but I'm just correcting it because it's calculating the Kotak Emerging Fund. So thanks for the clarification. Sometimes you have to do these clarifications. So now it calculates that my total current small cap investment is around 50 lakhs. The total portfolio value is 3.5 crores. So the exposure is this much percentage, and this is the goal, and hence I have to increase my portfolio allocation to this much into small cap funds to get it to 20% of my portfolio. So those are good calculations that you can do. And I actually want to do a staggered investment. So I want to break this down into 3 parts and invest month on month. How can I break it into these funds in the next 3 months so that I can achieve this portfolio split by the end of 2024? Now, again, these are simple things that you can also calculate yourself, use a Google Sheet. But since the whole thread is going on, it's just much easier to calculate it right there. So now it's done the calculation based on the next 3 months. So now it's September, we have October, we have November, we have December. It's calculated that I need to invest 6 lakhs a month. This is how I can split in the 2 months. Now the split it's taken based on my current portfolio, which is heavier on Canara Robeco Small Cap Fund, slightly lesser on Nippon India. Again, these are not fund recommendations. This is not personal finance advice. This is just how we can use ChatGPT in different ways. That's something that people get wrong often with my YouTube videos. Instead of learning on the fundamentals, sometimes they say I'm showing off my portfolio. It is what it is. If it was 10,000 rupees, it would have been 10,000 rupees. But then I wouldn't have been making videos because I did not know enough about, making money or building a business or building a portfolio. If someone has a huge portfolio and they are showing you how they invest, you should be happy that they are showing you how to invest instead of complaining. And if they have a small portfolio, you'd probably not listen to them. Very interesting. YouTube is very interesting that way. But yeah, so far, these are the things that we've done. Now we're going to switch to the custom GPTs aspect. So let's get into it. One thing that I want you to see is also how we can use this on different platforms. So let me also show you how I use the Wealth Manager. So the Wealth Manager is something which is focused on the investing side of things. And this is an important difference. For now, what I've done is I've put everything into the ChatGPT online course thread, which makes it a little bit complicated to manage on a long-term basis. It's okay for the purpose of this course. But otherwise, I want you to have different threads. What you can do is you can have one thread for your Wealth Manager where you talk only about investing. This is the Wealth Manager trying to clean the data up for me, for my expenses and so forth. But the Wealth Manager is just focused on wealth. So diversifying the investments, diversifying the income and so forth. Income adjustment, revenue targets, expense management, investing strategy. Those are the things the Wealth Manager is focusing on. Then I have a YouTube assistant, for example, which helps me, basically write descriptions for my YouTube videos. Like, for example, create timestamps, which could be a long and lengthy process. And I don't spend a lot of time on YouTube. So it creates all of these descriptions and everything on YouTube for me, which are near perfect. The reason why they're near perfect is I keep the same thread for the same kind of conversation, right? So have different threads. You could have one for health and nutrition and fitness, for example. You don't see that here because I actually use CustomGPT for that. So let me show you some of those. You see here that I have 2 custom GPTs. One is the Healthy Chef and one is the Train Body and Mind. The way that I use Healthy Chef is for these quick prompts. So I've trained it on similar prompts based on my diet, based on the kinds of foods I eat, what I don't eat. Sometimes I just need some meal ideas. So I'll be like, suggest a pescatarian dinner with balanced portions. So it's saying, it knows how much protein I need. in one meal. So it's saying 200 grams of salmon with mashed sweet potatoes. You'll see it's the same kinds of foods that I was telling before because, those are the foods I like. So I wanted to create recipes around that. So this meal will give you around 55 to 60 grams of protein. So this is a new thread, but the reason why it's so accurate is because I've trained the CustomGPT, right? So the other one that I wanted to show you is the train body and mind. So let's create a weekly plan for this week and focus on today, because today is Saturday. You know what I need to do on Saturday, right? Sometimes I will just think, okay, today is this day. What am I supposed to do? So you can just feed that prompt because it knows what I do every day. So yes, today is Saturday, which means it's time for yoga and flexibility. So it's given me a routine which I can do, sort of like a flow that I can do in 30 minutes. And then it's gone ahead to create a full week plan for the next week. It knows that on Wednesday I get a massage and a sauna session, and Sundays for rest and recovery. So these are good reminders, but they're also amazing for training on a certain set of instructions that you can use from time to time. So let's switch now to the train body and mind. I think we'll have to go to the web version in order to edit this out. So let's go to the web version. Let's go to ChatGPT. And this is how I've trained these. So it's the exact same account, but now I've gone to the web version. So if you look at Healthy Chef and click on Edit GPT, you'll be able to see the kinds of configuration that I've done. So there's two options here. The create option is where you start prompting and build your ChatGPT. And finally, the configure option is where you give it all the inputs. So it's called Healthy Chef. It creates vegetarian and pescatarian meals with calorie control, focusing on nutrition and balance. That's the description. It's not an instruction, it's a description. There's a difference. Now, these are the instructions. This GPT is a health-focused GPT. 80% of the calories come from natural, real food sources. It's very important to know your principles, right? So that's one theme that you'll see in all of my videos. Since I know my principles, I'm able to train those to ChatGPT, right? The meals follow a balance of 60% high prana and sattvic foods, while 40% are rajasic foods, with 60% of the diet being vegetarian or vegan and 40% being pescatarian. All of these proportions will be very hard to manage manually, which is why I use the GPTs for this. This GPT plans balanced meals with 3 to 5 kinds of plant-based ingredients to optimize gut health, which is important for longevity, and offers tips on intermittent fasting, which is something that I do regularly. Emphasis 2 meals per day, which is based on me. Inspired by Southeast Asian, I live in Vietnam, I travel in Southeast Asia, I have access to those sauces and vegetables and recipes. Indian and Italian cuisines, these are the cuisines I enjoy. I've also mentioned the methods: grilling, stir-frying, boiling, and steaming. Those are the methods of cooking that I like. Right? So there's not a lot of deep frying involved. I'm sure there could be other methods which are not involved. It's not like something that I have to do in a tandoor or something like that, right? I have a simple oven at home. It also explores new methods, herbs and sauces. So usually I would use herbs and sauces to make things interesting rather than just changing the entire recipe. And then it's talking about rice, whole wheat bread, potatoes, sweet potatoes, the vegetables, small portion of carbs like a bowl of rice, 2 slices of bread, etc. Fewer carbs for the first meal, more carbs for the second. Keep the user in a slight calorie deficit every day to maintain a weight of 68 to 70 kgs. This is where I feel good. Above 70 kgs, I feel a little bit more lazy. Below 68 kgs, I feel weak. So I want to stay between 68 to 70 kgs. The user burns 300 to 400 calories through activity per day. This is based on my Apple Health data. So you can actually feed in that data as well. With resting energy averaging 1300 to 1400. Weight loss is not a goal, but prefers not to exceed 70 kgs. Again, weight loss is not important for me. It's important to give all of these inputs. And the more input you give, the better output you'll get, right? So now how do you make something like this on your own, right? So what you have to do is basically go on the create GPT option And you can write all of the inputs directly in your configure, but you could also click on the create, and this will help you build a new GPT. Right? So let's get started. Hi, I'll help you build a new GPT. What would you like to make? So what I'm going to say is, I want you to make a productivity assistant. Let's call it productivity GPT. It's going to suggest how to 80-20 different areas of life, build habits and routines for success, and overall have productive days by doing less, not more. Focus on essentials for business owners, marketeers, entrepreneurs, freelancers. Now, I've given it an audience. I've given it a role, which is a productivity GPT role. The reason I've given it an audience is because it knows that these people might have a lot of distractions. They might want to achieve a lot in a single day. It's kind of like the persona that I am, but it's just an example. So let's call it productivity focus. Sounds good. Focus on deep work. Focus on lean principles. Focus on balance, right? So given it the basic morals and values and principles, this is important for it to be designed sort of like some people might go, I'm a hard hustling, hard hitting entrepreneur who can work 16 hours a day, but this is not the persona that we are talking to. The persona that we are talking to is more of, I really don't care about the picture, but it's created a picture, that's fine. Suggest another example, right, just for fun. But the idea is to give it the persona, because then it can align it with the persona. Give another option for the profile picture. I usually just use the configure directly, but if you're getting started, I think this create is a good option for you to play around with things like creating profile pictures and so forth. But I just use the configure. So here's an option. I like it. So central focus, there is a pyramid. What should it avoid or emphasize when guiding users to improve their? It should focus on reducing distractions, delegating the work where possible, and focus on things that really move the needle for the business. Have productive mornings, eat the frog first. Like these are all productivity, concepts, but I'm just giving it the kind of concepts and it's updating the GPT so that next time, whenever we want to focus, we can get those kinds of inputs. I think this is good for now, just as a way of showing you the process of creating it. Yes, let's try. So now we can try it. Awesome. You can start using the productivity focus in the preview chat. So let's go to the preview chat. So on the right side of the screen is where you see the preview chat, and it's already given some conversation starters. So as you can see, it's populated the instructions based on what I said. So I said, eat the frog, right? I said, eat the frog with a space between the E and A. It's important that this does not matter. So a lot of things does not matter when you prompt. How it's translated, the eat the frog is very important. It said, tackling the hardest task first, eat the frog approach. So the GPT is smart enough to do that. If you were to tell an employee to design something and say, eat the frog with a space, the employee must be thinking, what the hell is he even talking about? Unless he's also read the book, Eat the Frog. So let's try this. How can I use 80-20 rule in my routine? So identify the high impact task, eat the frog, streamline repetitive task, batch low impact activities, set daily priorities. Each morning choose 1 to 3 high impact tasks, limit your distractions, have specific times to check the emails or messages. This is a concept that's borrowing from deep work. Build a minimalist routine. So see, this is very different from if you were to ask a direct thread on ChatGPT, which is something we started the course with, like a direct single shot prompt to come up with productivity tips, because they would have been completely random. So if we are happy with this, let's go ahead and create the custom GPT and say anyone with the link. We'll actually share the link with the course as well so that you can find it. You can actually use this productivity GPT. And I would encourage all of you to create your own GPTs and, share the links with me. I would be happy to give them a spin, see how they are. And I'll be proud because, I would see that you've been able to take this course, execute it, and create something of your own. So that's all for this tutorial. I would encourage everyone to simplify your workflow for maximum output. And these are the different ways that you can do that. Give it a spin. There are a lot of ways that you can use ChatGPT. One final takeaway that I would say is we've gone from the single shot to chain of thought to flipped interaction to all the way to custom GPTs. But the best way to improve your skills in ChatGPT is to just take ChatGPT in whatever you do. So that'll be my closing advice. Thank you so much for watching this course. If you want more high quality content like this, where you can learn something, implement it in your life, do subscribe and share this video with others because it helps the channel reach the right people. And thank you so much for watching. Ciao.